at the end of the day, when you like say, oh, I don't like myself, at the end of the day, that's a slap in God's face, like, oh, you didn't make me right. And so what I realized is the more that I fell in love with God, the more that I pursued God, the more that I saw myself the way that he saw me. Because at the end of the day, sometimes we can proclaim like, I got all these haters, or this person says that about me, but that doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, what do you have to say about you? Because sometimes you are your worst enemy. You are your worst critic. And so at the end of the day, what do you have to say about you? And does that align with what God says about you? Hello friends, it is Demaya Unique here, and we are doing a Q&A and a story time today. Okay, so let's hop right into the video. I am one that talks right with my hands, so just don't mind me. Okay, so the very first question that I want to get into is just like the basics about me. So I am Demaya Unique. My first name is Demaya. My middle name is actually Unique. So shout out to my mama. But that is my name. I am 21 years old. I am married, and I am a dog mom to Autumn Noel. So that is a little bit about me. Also, I just graduated the University of Cincinnati. I graduated with a marketing degree. And post-college, which I'm going to talk more about on my channel, but post-college, I am pursuing full-time entrepreneurship for my own brand called Demaya Unique. Okay, yes, it's named after me. So that's pretty much like the summary about me. And so what I did also before I got on here to do this video, what I did was I asked or I put a Q&A poll on my Instagram, which if you don't follow me there, make sure you follow me at Demaya Unique, which will pop up somewhere on this screen. But make sure you follow me there. But I put a poll or a little Q&A box on there, and basically asking to ask me questions about anything about entrepreneurship, travel, married life, just anything about me. So we are going to get into some of these questions, and then also we're going to talk about how I got here. How did we get to YouTube? I think I talked about that in my very first video, about how I was supposed to be starting, all of that good stuff. So we are also going to talk about that. Okay, so before I hop into the questions, let's talk about the journey to YouTube. So I think I had posted this, especially on Instagram. God had told me to start a YouTube channel in 2018. And so, you know, I had began collecting everything that I needed as far as equipment, all of that good stuff. I literally like bought lights and microphones and just everything, like backdrops. And at this time, this was before I was married. This was before I had even graduated high school. So this was a minute, y'all. And I'm shook that I am 21 and I'm a college graduate. Like, that is like beyond crazy. Excuse me. So during this time, I had not graduated. I was not married yet. And I was just doing what God was telling me to do. I was also at this point getting ready to lead my very first Bible study. So like, you know, God was just like pouring a lot into me and telling me to do different things. And I was just like, yes, Lord, you know what I'm saying? So, got all of my stuff, literally planned it out, y'all. Like, I'm such a planner, like planned out exactly what I was going to do, what each video was going to be about, the script and everything. Literally put my outfit together, got in front of the camera, recorded, but could not edit. And like, after I saw how I kept looking and the faces I was making and how I sounded, I was just like, yeah, this is not gonna work. So I kind of ended up putting that on the back burner, and I did the Bible study and everything, and just kind of kept pushing. But then I launched a podcast called the Words of Wisdom podcast, and I ended up launching that because I'm like, well, this would be easier because I don't have to show my face, like I don't have to show up, like I can just preach or teach what God is giving me or what God is laying on my heart. So I was doing that. But then, like, once I started my business and everything, like, or my brand that I have now, once I started that, I was like, okay, where does this fit? And, like, I just found myself, like, praying about it and, like, talking to God about it. And he was just kind of like, you were never really supposed to, like, go down this road, because this is not what I had for you. Like, this is not the way that I wanted you to show up. You know what I mean? And so then as I began to sit and reflect on it, like, it really did not fit me. Like, podcasts are for some people, but it's not for everybody. And he began to show me, like, he did not want me in that space. Because one, it was taking up time. And so that's something that I have been becoming more aware of. Like, what am I giving my time to? And so that was taking up time, and God was just like, that is not where I want Demaya Unique. You know what I mean? And so I realized that, and I was like, okay, well, I know that I'm supposed to be on YouTube. Like, I know that this is something that God has been giving to me. So it definitely took, along my journey from 2018 till 2022, it took me having to overcome insecurities, having to realize that this is who God made me to be, and I can't not like who he's made me to be. Because at the end of the day, and this is what I teach even in the Visionary Bootcamp, like, at the end of the day, when you, like, say, oh, I don't like myself, at the end of the day, that's a slap in God's face, like, oh, you didn't make me right. And so what I realized is, the more that I fell in love with God, the more that I pursued God, the more that I saw myself the way that he saw me. Because at the end of the day, sometimes we can proclaim, like, I got all these haters, or this person says that about me, but that doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, what do you have to say about you? Because sometimes you are your worst enemy. You are your worst critic. And so at the end of the day, what do you have to say about you? And does that align with what God says about you? And so that was my whole little journey, like, having to accept who I am, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, like, realizing that, no, I'm not perfect. Yes, I mean, I have, failures and flaws and all of these things. But at the end of the day, like, I am Demaya Unique. I am a product of God. Like, God did this. God made me. He gave me my personality, my loud voice. He gave me, and he made me the way that I am. And so it took me having to go on this journey of, I love who he made me to be. Like, you know what I mean? And so being able to show up in this space and be as confident and be as bold, even on camera, y'all, where I'm telling y'all, the first time I sat down and recorded this video, I was like, stop, pause. And even being real and raw, because I was supposed to do this live, but that didn't work. But even recording this real and raw, like, I can say, like, I have not stopped this video to, like, I don't sound right. And it's just even mind-blowing to me. Like, there's growth in myself, and that's a beautiful sight to see. Because when you really go on that journey of healing and discovery and all of those things with your creator, with your maker, it's like you can really look at yourself, hear yourself, and there's flaws, I'm gonna stutter, like, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I am a product of God, and I can open up my mouth, I can talk and be confident, because I'm a product of God. And if I hide myself, I'm hiding his glory, okay? If I hide myself, I'm hiding his power. I'm hiding what God can do for somebody else, okay? So that's my little spiel. It's been 8 minutes, but I'm gonna get into these questions. So that's kind of like my story or my journey to YouTube. And I just pray that in itself, like, would benefit somebody to take all of your insecurities, your low self-esteem, all of those things to God. And I'm telling y'all, like, he has the power to, like, get you together, okay? That's how I can say in a short little snippet. But we're definitely going to talk about that more on my channel, about lack of confidence, low self-esteem, because that has been my journey, that has been my story, the things that I've personally struggled with, and that God has helped me to overcome. So that's my little spiel on how I got to YouTube, okay? So I've been supposed to be here, but God had grace and mercy with me. That's pretty much that. So getting into the questions. Okay. First question. Y'all was like all up. Y'all was like asking some really good questions, by the way. So the very first question is, how long did you date your husband before y'all got married? Okay, let me also use my little pen that I got off Amazon. It's my Apple Pencil, but it got like a little case. It's cute. But let me check this out so I can make sure I remember that I answered it. So, how long did you date your husband before y'all got married? So, me and Richard, who is my husband, we started dating in September of 2019. That was when we started dating. The whole story of that is a whole story, which is gonna be for another story time, because y'all would be here for hours trying to just explain, go into deep detail about everything. So we started dating September of 2019, and we got engaged December 28th of 2019, and then we got married December 28th, 2020. So it was pretty fast, but also something that I've talked about and I am very intentional about is that I didn't just date to date. Like, I knew going in, like, if I'm gonna make the choice and the decision to date someone, then I'm looking forward toward marriage. And I personally believe like that is using wisdom, like, because at the end of the day, like, I think sometimes, especially in our generation, we take relationships lightly. And I had been in a situation where I just experienced like playing with people's feelings and taking advantage and wasting time. Like, and I just did not like how that feels, especially being someone who loves hard. I'm like, nah, bro, if I'm about to give you all I got, you don't need to go nowhere, okay? And I feel like a lot of the times, like, people's feelings and emotions are just like being played with and just tossed and turned, and we weren't made for that, okay? And so I was not made for emotional distress, all right? And I knew that. So I'm kind of like, if I'm gonna make the decision, if I'm gonna be bold enough and old enough to make the decision today, then I am bold enough and old enough to get married. Like, but I feel like, especially in our generation, a lot of people hear marriage and then that's when they get serious, but you can like live together and do all the wifely things, but you don't got a ring. Not me, okay? So yeah, so I was pretty confident, like, I'm not going to be someone's girlfriend for like 2 to 5 years. You already know, and we have been friends for a while, so it's like, you already know if you want to marry me, and that's that. So, and honestly, even before we got married or even went into the stage of dating, I was kind of like, no, like, I'm in college, I need to focus, da 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 da. But then God like came and like confirmed, like, no, like, I want you to get married. Like, this is my will for you. And so once I got God's confirmation on top of that, I'm like, well, we kind of already knew going in. So that's what I feel like too. Like, it's always about the voice of God concerning your life and what his will is for your life. Yes, we were young. Yes, concerns for finances and career and all of those things. But at the end of the day, if God is calling us to it, then he's going to make a way, because he makes provision for the vision. Okay. So yeah, so like, it's definitely been a journey. Like, it wasn't just peaches and cream. I promise y'all, especially getting married in a panoramic. Okay, it was not peaches and cream. However, at the end of the day, when God is calling you to something, it's beyond you. And so I knew that not only was I breaking generational curses and different things like that that ran in my family, but also because who we are called to. Like, we have a ministry together, and we are called to be a light to the young generation, because they like, you I was 19, they like, you 19 getting married, you married? Like, that draws like a lot of attention, but that attention at the end of the day goes back to God, because he gets the glory. He told me to. And so I obeyed the voice of God. And so that's that. It was very quick, straight to the point, because I believe you should be intentional when dating. If you are interested and big enough and bold and old enough to be ready to date, then marriage should also be a consideration. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you'll be ready to consider moving in. You be ready to consider, sharing bank accounts. You might as well consider marriage, okay? So that's like my whole little spiel on that. I probably got some more married life questions in here, so I'm gonna move on to the next one. The next one is, how did you know your husband was the one? I get this question a lot. Again, I knew he was the one because I would say I watched him. Like, even when we were just friends, like, I watched him and I watched his character. And I think sometimes people, I know society has this saying, like, oh, you gotta try it before you know, and da 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 da. No, that's not true. You literally know someone by their character in every area. How they treat their siblings, how they respond to family, how do they respond to crisis, what do they look like and sound like when they're in the valley. Like, you see all of that just from being friends. And especially because we were close friends, like, we talked every single day. And so just from that and like how he interacted with me on just friends, like, and that's the thing too that I see in our society and generation is that people jump so fast, shoot they shot so fast and barely know you. Like, I am a huge advocate for being friends, really good friends, before you just go all the way in like, oh, I like you, I want to be with you, like, da 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 da, like, be my girl, be my man. Like, it be too fast. It be way too fast. And that's why you can't really get to know somebody. Like, you know what I mean? Then your feelings are shot because you jumped in too fast. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm a huge advocate for taking your time. We were friends for like 4 years. And we were just chilling. And I saw how he just treated me as a friend. Like, how genuine he was just as a friend. So from watching him, I'm like, I really like him. And then we went from really like to I really love him. And then I got to marry him. You know what I'm saying? Now he's my husband. But that's the little short snippet. Again, also, like, of course, God's confirmation, like, that this was the one. I saw him. I saw his faith. I saw how sincere and genuine he was, one, for God, but then also, like, you know, in just how he carried himself as a man. So that's pretty much that. It ain't no like, yeah, I seen a sparkle in his eye and da 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 da. Like, no, but it's just like, really, when you sit back and you watch an individual and you see the sincerity, not for just how they carry themselves, but also like how they pursue God and, you know, how serious they are about their relationship with God. Because I was very serious after I came out of that last little situation. I was very serious. I said, if you're not running at the same speed as me when it comes to Jesus, me and you, we ain't a thing. Okay, chicken wing. So yeah, that was me. And so then God sent one that was for me and that we are here. We be. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. The next question I have is the moment you decided you were sold out to Christ. What was the moment that I decided I was sold out to Christ? Okay, y'all taking me back. So, excuse me, I would say when I was 10 years old. I first met Christ at the age of 10. And this was after my mom had came back to church. She brought us back to church and all of those things. And I was like, you know, going to Sunday school, all of the stuff, like participating in my word, because my grandmother, or my nana, that's what I call it. She was our Sunday school teacher and stuff. So I was participating in the word. And then like, I just remember like I did experience a lot like growing up, especially with a single mom and stuff like that. And so I just was kind of like going through my own little phase. Like I had attitudes, like I was just upset, you know what I'm saying? And so also dealing with like low self-esteem, not having like finding my place in the world, like not knowing who I am. All of these were my concerns at 10 years old, y'all, I promise. And so with all of that, I remember them having, I think it was a Friday night service, and they end up saying like, or making an altar call, whatever. And I end up going up because I was like, okay, like I really want this. Like I'm ready to meet Jesus at this point. And so went up there, tarried for the Holy Ghost and all of those good things. And that's when I met God. That's when I was sold out. Like soon as I met Jesus, I was sold, because I was like, wait a minute, this a love like I ain't never felt. This is real, okay? And so after that experience, like I always say, like, and that's why I'm a huge advocate for the Holy Ghost, okay? Because after that, I was just shook. I said, the living, moving, breathing God that sits on the throne just came down and met me. Shook. Okay, that's when I knew that God was a personal God. He wasn't just a God that made commands. He wasn't just a God that, you know what I mean? He was really personal. He wasn't just my grandmother's God, my mama's God. He was my God. And so when he met me there, like, I just remember wailing and crying and just like, bro, he took over. Like, and then, you know, something was going on in my mouth. I started speaking in tongues. I said, hold up, wait a minute. And I just remember like really like letting go and just letting him have his way. And I got up off that floor. I said, I'm sold. That's it. That's literally when I knew. And like, I've been on this journey. I'm 21 years old. So I've been on this journey for 11 years. And it's been the best decision I've ever made. And I say that, and like, I feel like so many times young people take that for granted. Like, being able to know God at such a young age is so beneficial because you don't have to experience all that life is without God. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get to make decisions as far as relationships and school and career and business, like all of those things with God. No, I'm not saying you get a perfect peach cream type of life, but at the end of the day, like, you get God to help you and to guide you and to, you know, allow you to really experience life and not have to suffer because of your own actions. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's when I would say I really met God, and this journey has really been beautiful. The ups, the downs, the uglies, all of that good stuff. So yeah, that's the moment. That's the moment that I met him. The next question is, what is your favorite thing to do since finishing school? That's a good question. My favorite thing to do since finishing school. Chill. Okay? I love going at my own pace. Like, I literally love it. Not having the responsibility of doing homework, going to class, like, just period. Because I've been going to school for the last 12 years plus another 16 years. And I'm just like, it's just like, yeah, we had winter breaks, summer breaks, all of those things. But it was like, I knew school was coming back. So it's kind of like I was trying to maximize my time when I wasn't in school. And so just not having it is just such a huge relief, really. Like, it's really a huge relief. And I love just waking up and taking my time in the morning. Y'all, I promise you, I do not get up till 9 a.m. and I don't start my day till 11 because I have a 2-hour morning routine, okay? And then I love like being able to help more around the house because I literally got married when I was in college still. And so that in itself, trying to balance school and being a wife and then getting a dog, y'all. I don't know where my animal was. I don't know. But yeah, so like just trying to balance all of that. But then with school leaving, it's like I can finally pay attention to my home and show up here and like just do things that I've been wanting to do as far as decorating and stuff like that. So y'all gonna see that on the channel, okay? Because I really have been like wanting to just really take care of my home. And so things that I've been doing is packing lunches and like little cute organization things and like just straightening up, rearranging, all of that good stuff. So that's what I've really been enjoying. Also, I've been working on my business and stuff, and that's really been nice because that is truly what I'm passionate about and what I know is attached to my purpose. So being able to do that has been I'm just enjoying it. Like, I'm really enjoying the journey. So that's that. I ain't gonna spend too much time on that. Let's see. What is one thing that you learned that has benefited you in marriage? One thing that I learned that has benefited me in marriage. That's a really good question. One thing that I learned that has benefited me in marriage. I would say, and it was crazy because I was just talking with someone about this. I would say one thing that has really benefited me in marriage the one thing that I've learned that has really benefited me in marriage was being selfless. And one thing I learned is both of you are making sure that you're trying to serve the other and not solely focus on yourself and what you want and different things like that, then everybody would be served. And so like, as for example, like for me, if I'm always concerned about serving him and he's always concerned about serving me, then we'll both be served. But the moment that you get selfish and you're like, no, it's about me and me, like then it causes strife in the marriage. And then also, of course, including God in everything. That's something that I am heavy on, like whether it be praying in the home, whether it be like doing devotionals together, whatever the case may be, trying to include God in the home and at the center at all times. And something that we practice even like heavy too, like even when we are having discussions and stuff like that, or just talking about like what's really going on, like in our feelings or anything like that, making sure that we remember that this is a 3-strand cord. And so anytime like we can be vulnerable in the home, like, and I just was also emphasizing to my husband like the other day, like you don't have to, put on this facade, or you don't have to, like, I want our home and even down to our children, like where in our home, this is the place that we can be vulnerable. This is the place that we can be naked. So if we're not okay, we can say, hey, I'm not okay. And this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. And so that, even in that, because even in that, us just being transparent and vulnerable, like, and remembering that God is always in the midst, because when you create a atmosphere in a house with God at the center, God is always in the midst. And so just so much breakthrough can happen in your home when you keep God at the center and you keep him first, and you're making sure that you're incorporating him in the day-to-day, in business and career and whatever. And so that's something that I would say that I've learned, is being selfless and also keeping God at the center. So yeah, that's my spill for that. Okay. The next question that I have is from one of my boot campers. So for those who don't know, I think I talked a little bit about me being an entrepreneur. So I am a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I said that really like I had an accent or something. But I have a personal brand called My Unique, and I run a visionary boot camp, which is a 10-week program that builds you into the next visionary leader. And it focuses on identity, purpose, passions, making sure that you are walking in alignment with who God says you are, what your purpose is, and what your passions are. And so that is a program that I run, as well as I am a brand designer. So not only am I building leaders, but I'm building brands. But I don't just build ordinary brands, okay? I build brands that God has given the go ahead on. I build brands that God has given you the vision for, okay? So I don't just build, just, oh, you got an idea, okay, let's build it. No, that is not for me as a brand designer. You can find somebody else, but I'm me, okay? So I am a brand designer, but I focus on brands that have visions from God to build and establish, because I don't want you just wasting your money and this ain't the will of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so this question is, when did God gift the boot camp to you? So again, I just said I run the Visionary Boot Camp. So God gave me the Visionary Boot Camp when I was building my brand. So I started building my brand October of 2020, because that is when I came out the bakery. That's a whole nother story for another day. Maybe we'll do an entrepreneurship story time, okay? But I started a bakery, wasn't what God told me to do. He told me to close it. I said, yes, Lord. The day I closed it, the day he gave me the vision for what I'm supposed to be doing, okay? So he gave me the vision for my brand that I have now. And when he gave me that vision, I began to build it. So I began to build the foundation as far as the mission, the vision statement, and all of those things. And then as I was getting into my services, so once I started putting like the services and the offers together, God laid a program, like a group program on my heart. And so I'm like, okay, God, like what type of program? Like what should it include? And so God began to show me and my story. And so this is kind of why I don't just build ordinary brands, because I believe that anything you do and anything that you create should be connected to you. It should be in alignment with your identity. It should be in alignment with your purpose. It should be in alignment with your passions. It should not just be random, because we don't have a random God. We have a strategic God. And so when I was formulating the boot camp, God began to remind me of my story. Growing up, I did not know who I was. I was not confident about my purpose. I was not confident about myself. I had dealt with so much low self-esteem, lack of confidence, and all of those things, even down to procrastination. Like, I know so many people would probably be surprised, because I am a planner, like down to the T now. Like, I make sure that if I set a goal, if I say I'm gonna do something, I make sure that I am setting myself up to do just that. But it's crazy, because I used to be a procrastinator. I used to wait to the last minute. I used to not be as structured, as organized, have a calendar, none of that, okay? And so I dealt with all of that. And then God had to nip that right in the bud. And so I had to learn all of these life lessons as I was growing up. And as I was getting older, and God just began to show me all of the things that I've learned along my journey from faith to, whether it be spiritual or natural, like planning and being intentional, and how you have purpose, and everything that you do should be filled with purpose. And so after all of that, he also added that we should be focusing on healing and becoming the vessel, so that we can create and birth what it is that we're supposed to be doing on the earth. And so God showed me all of this, y'all. And so I was like, okay, well, we're gonna call it the Visionary Boot Camp. And visionary came from, it's crazy how it came about, but God just began to give me that word, and had me looking up definitions and what it means to be a visionary. And so what he showed me in our generation is that we lack thinking about the future and making decisions now to get there. You know what I mean? And so we kind of live in the moment sometimes, and we make rash decisions and then don't think about whether the consequence that's going to come, basically. And so that's kind of what it means to be a visionary leader, to have the vision, what God has to say about your life, and to live and make decisions according to that. And so that's how that came about, y'all. It was a long journey, but at the end of the day, God showed me how these were things that I struggled with, that I had to overcome, and he had given me the tools and the keys and the methods to overcome that. And so now I had the position to teach others, and that's what I do. So that's pretty much what the program is and how it was gifted to me. So yeah. So I answered that question. Let's see what the next one is. What was your hardest lesson that you had to learn in entrepreneurship? My hardest lesson. My hardest lesson that I've had to learn in entrepreneurship is really pivoting. I would say pivoting. And I feel like God started working with me on this in 2020, because I was supposed to get married August 2020. We didn't get married till December because of the panorama, okay? So that was in itself a lot. And I was the person that if I had my heart and mind on something, set on something, it was set in stone. I was not one that liked to pivot, like to change, like to do none of that, because I'm just no, that's not what I had in my heart and mind, okay? So that's how I was, and God had to work that out of me by allowing me to go through the most difficult situations. So that was something that I learned before I got fully into entrepreneurship. But even after launching, even down to this year, because this is going into my second year, which is crazy. Going into my second year of business, I planned out my whole 2022. I'm these are my goals, this is da-da-da-da. But then I realized who I am, and that's why I always teach self-reflection, because I overextend myself, and sometimes I'm not realistic with the goals. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm a dreamer. But sometimes it's like I don't be being realistic with what I can do at the rate that I am going. And so I set my year up, all of that stuff, and then I have recently just started the marketing for the Visionary Bootcamp. And so started that, and everything was great, but then it was like it wasn't getting the results that I was expecting it to get, and I was just like, okay, what's going on? And that happened, and then like the end of the month happened or whatever, and I realized, okay, so what are we gonna do, because we're supposed to have 2 boot camps this year. With 2 boot camps comes 2 retreats, because the boot camp also has a retreat, right? And so I'm like, okay, God, like, what is going on? Like, is this just a test of my faith? Like, or what are you trying to do here? What are you trying to tell me? And so after like just talking with God, and I'm like, God, like, you know, I'm just gonna like let you have your way, and I'm just gonna wait on you to give me what to do moving forward, because I don't know what to do. You have eyes where I can't see. And so after sitting with God, and waiting, it got to the end of the month before I can make the next decision. God began to reveal to me that I wouldn't be able to do all that He wanted me to do this year if I had 2 boot camps. And so with that being said, like, God told me, you don't need to have this boot camp, because I was supposed to have a summer one and then a fall, or like a fall winterish one. And He was like, no, that's not gonna work, because y'all, it's 10 weeks and we show up for the boot camp twice a week, morning and night, and I really be drained because I give it all that I got. And for anybody who like has the gift of teaching, or God uses you to teach or to lead in a capacity where you're leading others, it ain't for the weak. It's really draining, and it really takes you having enough time and space and all of those things. Like, you really have to dedicate your full attention, because you're like, this is not something that you can play with. Like, it's precious. You have the hands of, or lives of, everyone else in your hands. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not a joke, it's not a game. And so I really take that seriously. And so it just be draining. So it's not something that I can just give myself to like twice a year. And God showed me that. And so with that being said, I had to pivot, and also realize that I am not connected to my business, even though, yes, I am connected to my business in a way where the mission, the vision, and all of those things, and this is a part of my purpose. However, if something flops, it flops. And it does not mean that I'm a flop. It doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It just means that change had to happen. You know what I mean? And that's just what I've really been hearing like a lot, especially before I had to make the changes for the boot camp, is pivot, pivot, pivot. You just gotta, when something don't go right, you gotta sit back, reflect, talk to God, pivot. You know what I mean? You can't get hung up on, oh, this didn't work, oh, this didn't go that right way, or oh, this little reel ain't reeling. You can't be caught up on like the minute stuff, like the little details, because at the end of the day, you just have to keep being consistent. You just have to keep showing up. You just have to keep trying your best and giving it all you got, and then letting God do His job too, because that's something God told me the other day, and it hit. He said, you know how to work, but do you know how to have faith? I said, you ain't even have to get me like that. You ain't even have to get me like that. But yeah, so that's the biggest thing that I would say, or the hardest lesson I've had to learn in entrepreneurship, is pivoting. Because I was a person that when my heart and mind is stuck. But God was like, no, baby, no, daughter, you got to learn how to pivot, because that's life. And so even as a child of God, you're going to have to pivot, okay? So that's pretty much that question. I think I answered the other one. Let's see what other questions I had. I think I had a lot of questions about college and being an entrepreneur and how I balance. Okay, so let's answer that one. So the next question is, how did you juggle college and being an entrepreneur? Which is a really great question. Because it took me out. But no, I would say, because I did start getting very lenient, especially like on my boundaries and stuff, but I would say to balance, because I've always, since I was like 14, y'all, like I've been working, like, because I know how to go get it. Like I was raised by two Black independent women, okay? And they taught me one thing. They taught me for sure is if you want something, you better go work and get it, okay? So that has been a blessing and a good and a bad thing as well, because child, then I had to learn with God, you got to be dependent. So it was a little balance. It's a good balance, but yeah, so I've had a job since I was like 14. And with that being said, like going through high school and stuff like that, like I had to learn how to balance work and then also like, what is it called? School. So I use planners, planners, calendars, reminders, anything, to make sure that I'm staying organized and on top of stuff. So when I was in college, this was my motto. First of all, it was 4.0 season. And then second of all, we're getting stuff done before the deadline. So I went to a college preparatory school, which is Walnut Hills High School. And that school was hard, just FYI. But it was so much work. And every class, down to the elective, legit gave you so much homework. And so when I got to college, it was like easier because I was only taking 4 or 5 classes. And in high school, I was taking 7. And we got homework from all 7. Okay? So getting into college and you only have classes, on certain days. So I'm like, okay, literally going into each month, I would write out what my assignments were, when they were due. And then usually like I would set up my work schedule so that I could knock out homework, and then if I had to go to work, go to work. And then on a day, and like, other days that I didn't have work, then I would do homework. And so that's kind of how I set it up. Like, y'all, I promise, like a calendar is a lifesaver. Like making sure you put all of your assignments that are due, trying to knock out like your assignments before the due date. Like, do not like wait to the last minute, because if you wait to the last minute, then you're gonna be stressed. And I just refuse to be stressed. So yeah, like making sure that you start on assignments, especially in the beginning when you're only talking about syllabi and all of that stuff, like making sure that you are knocking out stuff, like it's like, just knock it out. I promise you. Like, and I would stay at school to do homework. So after my classes, like I would schedule my classes in a certain way, leaving gaps to like, between classes so I could work on homework in between time, and different things like that. And then of course, whatever I had work, I would schedule work in there. But that's pretty much that. Now with being an entrepreneur, it is a little different because it's not just like clocking into a 9 to 5. But again, it's the same concept because I made sure that I had enough time to do what I need to do. So for both, I had a schedule. For school or for college, I had a schedule. Like for last semester, I had a school schedule and I had my business schedule. And so for me, for my business, what has worked for me is having admin Mondays. So I only tackle things for my business on Mondays. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were for clients. And then Friday, I would also use for content, like content days and stuff. So having a schedule, like literally, I promise y'all, schedules keep you organized. But just finding your own rhythm again, because that's kind of what matters the most, like finding the rhythm that works for you. But yeah, so taking advantage of your time, because what I found when I was like procrastinating and I couldn't balance multiple things is because I didn't understand where my time was going. And so you need to maximize your time. I was just talking on a call earlier today and I was saying like, because whether you know it or not, like you probably spend 5 hours on Instagram, 5 hours on TikTok, and like before you know it, your whole day is gone when you could have been doing other things. You know what I mean? So making sure that you're maximizing your time, you're planning out your weeks, you're planning out your month. So for me, I take time to plan out my entire month, and just big events and different things like that. And then I plan out my week by every Sunday. I make sure that's my plan today. I plan out my week and what I got to do and all of that good stuff. So I was also a wife, so making sure, I take care of the house and all of that. But I'll definitely be showing y'all videos and how I plan and stuff like that on my YouTube as well. But that's pretty much how I balance both, is a planner, a schedule, planning your weeks out, your days out, so that you can maximize your time. So that's pretty much that. The next question is, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self? That's a great question. What advice would I give my 18-year-old self? Okay, so first of all, I graduated high school at 17 years old. And so I would tell them to get ready, or myself, I would tell myself to get ready for the transition, because you are transitioning into adulthood, and it's kind of awkward because you're at the stage where it's like, well, I'm kind of still living with my parents, or I'm kind of like, you know, in the process of like being a teenager to like being an adult that's making adult decisions and stuff like that. So be ready for a transition and really do whatever you can to make sure you're investing into yourself. And I don't think that this is taught enough, because once you get to the age where you are able to make your own decisions, and no one, like, yes, you have parents and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you get to an age, you're 18, where you are now accountable for the decisions that you make. And so I would really say, make sure that you are investing into yourself. Make sure that you are paying attention to yourself. Make sure that you are, first of all, pursuing God, because at the end of the day, He is who is going to pour out wisdom and knowledge for you to go throughout this life you've never experienced, from moving into your own apartment, from picking a major in college, and different things like that. So yeah, like, really take some time to discover who He has made you to be, what it is you like, making sure that you are not overindulging into the social media world, because then at the end of the day, you're going to be comparing yourself and trying to be like everybody else, and then you're going to go through 19, 20, 21, 22, like just a makeup and a sum of everybody else. So definitely take some time to spend time with your Creator, and trying to find out who you are, what your purpose is in life, so that you can hear His voice. Because that's something that I am an advocate for too. Like, especially being young, like, it's easy to live your life based upon others' voices. And then you get so overwhelmed because, like, you don't feel settled. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like you can't please all these people, and you have all of these standards and all of these things from everybody. And so the biggest thing is, and how I live my life for one person in the audience of one, and one voice. I move at one beat, okay? And that's really what has helped me. And so that's what I would say. Make sure that you are taking time to get to know your Creator, get to know yourself, and really following the voice of God through this life, because it can really be busy, it can be loud, and at the end of the day, like, it just makes living that much easier. I promise you it does. So that's what I would say. Focus, okay? Don't be caught up on nobody. No boy, just focus, because you really got life ahead of you. And I think sometimes we get so caught up like, oh, I'm just trying to live life. Like, and I was just talking about this, especially if you've had like strict parents or whatever the case may be, you be ready to break loose and just do what it is you want to do. But at the end of the day, we don't realize, honey, 21, 22, 23 gonna creep up real fast. And then when you graduate college, you ain't gonna know what to do. You ain't gonna know where to go. You ain't gonna know what you want to do in life, because you've been, in la la land, and you didn't think life was gonna catch up, and you know what I mean? You was gonna have to make some final decisions and go in a final direction. Like, and so those are the things that we don't really consider. So make sure that you are investing time in your faith, in yourself, emotionally, mentally, you're healing, you're getting delivered, all of those things, so that I can get your character together for where He's purposing you to go, okay? So that's what I would say, the advice I would give my 18-year-old self. Let me see. A lot of people was asking about balance. Not answered that. Let's see. Fun question. If you could live anywhere, where would it be? If I could live anywhere, I would live, let's see. I've been talking a lot, y'all. My bad. Water break. If I could live anywhere, I would have to live by a beach. So it gotta be hot. And that's given, I've never been to California, but I really want to go. But then they gas prices is off the chizards, okay? So, I don't know. It probably would have to be like Florida, California. At this point, Hawaii. Hawaii. Send me to Hawaii, please, and thank you. Yeah, because I don't like, I mean, I guess like I would probably do California, but then the prices is on expensive side. But somewhere near a beach, because I love the beach. The beach is my favorite place to be. Like, it's just, I don't know, like, it just, I feel like I can feel the glory of the Lord. Like, just look at that water, how it only comes so far. Like, I could preach on just the beach, okay? Listen, because it's just beautiful to see, like, the sunrise, the sunset, the breeze, the water, the sand. So nice, peaceful. That's my favorite place. That's what actually my iPad screen is, because it's just so nice. But yeah, near a beach. So California, Florida, those be too, like, you know, touristy. So maybe Hawaii. If I could live there, I would live there. That's gonna be my final answer. So I don't keep going back and forth. So yeah, let me check that out. Let's see. I think for the most part, I've answered all these questions. Favorite Bible story? That's a good question. My favorite Bible story is, I would have to say my favorite Bible story is about David and Saul. Now, this is about to get real deep, but like, that's something that I had to learn in like one of my recent like seasons of life, is just honor. And like with David, and how David allowed God to fight for him. Because we grew up in a world, like, if somebody do something to you, like, you got to be ready to defend yourself. You got to be ready to fight for yourself. But at the end of the day, as a child of God, that's not my role. That's my Father's role to fight for me. And so watching David and Saul, like, no matter what David was experiencing from Saul, like, he not once tried to lift a finger to fight for himself. Like, he literally ran for his life from Saul, who tried to take his life multiple times. He literally like ran from him. And then David had the opportunity twice to take Saul's life, and he didn't. And so I want to be like David. That's the message. And I learned that whole concept in The Bait of Satan by John Bevere. Highly recommend. It's called The Bait of Satan, and it's about offenses. And so that's a really good book, because I feel like we should all be overcoming like offense and not allowing what other people say or do to offend us. But even if we are offended, to move past that and not harbor unforgiveness and all of that one good stuff. Because that book got me together. It got me together. So that's what I would say my favorite Bible story is at the moment. Let me see. How do you fully heal? That's gonna be the last one. Y'all, this is an hour. I talked on here for an hour. Oh my gosh. Hopefully upload with no problems, no casualties. Y'all know how YouTube was acting when I was trying to go live. Anywho, how do you heal from broken relationships? So what I this is gonna be like a little lengthy, but what I would say for how to heal from broken relationships. So the biggest thing that sticks out to me first is that we're all broken people, and we all have to understand that. And like previously, I think it was like last year, God was dealing with me about that and how he is the only one that is perfect. And everybody down here, including yourself, is broken and is going to make mistakes. And you can find the most perfect person and like love them dearly and have like a best friend that you just get along with, this and that, but they're still human. They're still human, and they still can hurt your feelings just like anybody else. And so the first thing I would say is realizing that everybody is broken, which means that everybody needs grace. And that's what I feel like the most, like when it comes down to relationships, like whether it be our parents, whether it be friends, whoever it may be, they need grace just like you need grace. And so that's number one. Number two is taking time to be with God, because if you're looking to be healed from a broken relationship, you got to go to the healer. Okay. So that's what I would say first. Like for me in my life, I spent a lot of time with the healer. And like the more time that I spent with him, the more I found my broken heart being fixed. Because he just knows what you need. And I tell this to the boot campers all the time, like God knows you better than anybody down here. He knows how to handle you. He knows how to nourish you. He knows how to speak to you. He knows how to chastise you. He just knows. And that's why I fell in love with God, because when you go and get to know God personally, and not just know God based upon what other people got to say, but you know God personally, like you learn how he deals with you. And so number two is spending time with the healer. Like you need to spend time with him, and open up. Because that's the thing too, like that God was dealing with me about. Sometimes we're not getting healed because we're praying surface level prayers. We're not going to God like, God, you see this wound back here on my back? You see this? You want to talk about what happened? Because that hurt. We not being real. Like, you know what I mean? Just as we would go and talk and vent to a friend, that's how we need to go to God. Like, you know what I mean? We need to point out that wound. Yeah, this hurt. This what happened. This person did me wrong and I didn't like how they did me. You know what I'm saying? Like, we really need to go and lay it all out to God and like release it. You know what I mean? Let it go. First of all, let that thing go at his feet. And really be vulnerable and transparent about it. Sometimes we're trying to hold in these situations and what broke us, and we're just holding it dearly to our hearts. But if we want God to heal, honey, you got to open up, and you got to be transparent, and you got to be vulnerable. You got to be naked. And sometimes it can be uncomfortable. But that's what I would say as well. So number one, child, and forget. Because I be talking so much. But you can go back and get that. But yeah, so that's what I would say as far as healing from a broken. Oh, that's number one. Realizing that we're all broken people, so we all need grace. Number two is going to spend time with the healer. Number three is getting open and vulnerable and transparent and naked with the healer, because he can't heal if you trying to hold it up in a ball and say, Father, today I thank you for a new day. I thank you for your mercy. I thank you for your grace. Amen. And you're not going to him to talk about that wound that you holding up and you balling up, keeping it so dear and close to your heart. Like, you know what I mean? So that's what I would say. Of course, fasting about it. Fasting and prayer, that breaks the yoke, okay? That breaks the attachment, that breaks it up. But yeah, so that's kind of what I would say, some tips that I would give as far as healing from broken relationships or a broken heart or any of those things. But that is all of the questions that I have. I pray that y'all have enjoyed this video. It's giving an hour. I've been talking for a minute.